Hey there, it's Mazzy. Welcome back. Music makes me smile. Wilco, AM, 1995, March 1995. This is the debut Wilco, 30-year-old. Maybe it's an anniversary edition. It's 30 years old. This is the choice that Rhino Fidelity did, Rhino High Fidelity, I should say, with the Obi, cut by Kevin Gray from the original master tapes. I'm going to get into this. I am going to do a comparison to the 2017 double album. The double album has extra tracks, but there's some things about this I want to talk about. This was cut by Chris Bellman, also on Rhino Records. I believe there's a Vinyl Me Please version, which I'd never heard. And there is this thing that people say when anything's announced. We already have a vinyl. We already have this one. We already have that one. Well, Black Sabbath, there was a ton of Rhinos over the last decade. There's Cars records in and out. There's all kinds of records being reissued all the time. Because just because you or me have it, doesn't mean someone else doesn't have it. And in this case, I've been reading a lot of these comments in the forums about Wilco. I don't even know their music. I never heard that record. And they listen to a clip through a phone or through a computer, and they go, "Ugh, this is an excellent record." Now, definitely it's not their best. Definitely it wasn't a big breakout hit when it came out. There is a video I did when this announcement was made of the two latest Rhino, this and Belladonna by Stevie Nicks. I did not get that one, but I did order this, and it arrived a couple days ago, and I've been listening to it a bunch and comparison. And I want to talk to you about the influences. Now, in that previous video, I get into the history of Uncle Tupelo in 94, the split up, and then Sunvolt and this year of 1995. So I don't need to repeat that. Go watch that video. There'll be a link at the end of this video. Just off the bat, before I get into the actual comparison, I thought it was interesting when you look and compare. First of all, I like the deepness of the new Stout and cover better. This one, but this one's fine. This one's actually really good. But look how big the radio is. It's larger, physically larger within the cover on the new one. Same with the type slightly than this one. All of the backs are identical. I measured. What else do I have to do when I'm listening to it and reading the liner notes? But first of all, the bottom line is this is an excellent cut Kevin Gray did. I'll get to that in a little bit. I'll get to more of a comparison as the video goes on, so stand by. How's that for a teaser? But also in those forum conversations, people are saying, talking about this record like it didn't matter, like they didn't get it. The countryside, like look at country rock. I mean, you probably like the Eagles, which is a band that actually I like. Eagles don't have a lot of balls. Do they have these beautiful harmonies and great songs that they write and they take from Tom Waits and Jackson Browne and John David Souther and collaborate with? Of course they do. But think of all the, like the Burritos and Graham Parsons and the Byrds and Buffalo Springfield. But the difference with Wilco, especially at this period, I mean, they went in an amazing direction and experimental stuff over the years, but that's a whole other story for another day. They really were influenced, and I picked 3 records that I think influence and have the sound on this record. Again, influence, not a ripoff. And one goes back to 1971, a very important record. And the debut record by the Rolling Stones on their own label in 1971 when they left APCO and London and the whole Alan Klein world and signed with their own custom label to Atlantic Rolling Stone Records. And of course, this is Sticky Fingers. Now, this is my original Andy Warhol designed Joe DeLisandro bulge zipper edition. You can tell because for whatever reason, I wrote my name twice on it back in 1971 or 72. What the fuck is that about? Of course, a great groundbreaking record. And what I said in that earlier video, and I posted on my social post, Instagram, is how influential Wilco was to this. The Rolling Stones, when they did that kind of swampy country rock thing going on, influenced by Graham Parsons, especially Keith Richard. On here you have Wild Horses, that was directly a tribute to Graham Parsons. You have Dead Flowers, which is very country, folksy country, as a matter of fact. Then you have the rocker stuff, Can You Hear Me Knocking, obviously Mick Taylor and Keith Richards, Swampy Thing. That's exactly what you get on some of the tracks on here. There's obviously the lush acoustic, beautiful sounds of the guitar. There's some wonderful pedal steel, even a little banjo prominent on one track especially. But the rockers, even the country rockers, are right out of the DNA of this record. And then just a year after that Sticky Fingers album, this album came out, Big Star. This album bombed. This band didn't catch on while they were awake, while they were live making records. But Big Star, #1 record that seems almost as humorous as the Raspberries. #1 sensation, what is it called? Hooks galore, swampiness of the Stones, a little bit of a power pop thing, a little darker. Christopher Bell and, of course, Alex Chilton's songwriting and their vocals are just great on this record. There's a song on this record called Casino Queen that harks back to both this Rolling Stone and Big Star record, which has the vocal pattern of it. And that's why this is very influential. So if you like Sticky Fingers and you like Big Star, you have to give this some time and listen to it. I'm sure when people first heard this, they just didn't get it. I mean, how many decades did it take for people to actually get this, latch on, and make it the mega influential record it has become, Big Star and this band, incredible band. And this kind of planted the seeds of what they would become throughout their 30 years now of experimental music, of country rock, of alt country, of Americana, and all that kind of interesting, even avant-garde stuff they would do on Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. The third band you have to acknowledge in terms of the influence to Wilco and Uncle Tupelo for that matter, and maybe Sun Volt, the Replacements. Now, I just picked one album. This is Tim, an album that got a great necessarily remix in the last couple of years. They were on Sire Records. You can't deny that there's some influence by this band on Wilco and Jeff Tweedy, especially when you have the edgier sounds, not so much the acoustic ballads and folk rock countrified numbers on that thing, but the edginess of the rockers on here are definitely have a feeling of this. Wilco definitely takes from all these three bands, the Rolling Stones, 68 to 72, Big Star, all their music, the short-lived life, and of course the Replacements. Wilco AM is a great record that needs time. You need to give this time and let it envelop you, because there are great melodies and hooks in here within that kind of rockin' sound, even the country sound. Amongst my favorite, I Must Be High, the opening tracks. Box Full of Letters is probably my favorite song on here, and -7 as well. So now the part that most of you have been waiting for, the shootout. I can only do a shootout between the copies I own. I don't have the Vinyl Me Please version. I don't know if there was an original vinyl version. I suspect there was. Probably a small run, since this was right in the midst of the CD era. And as I said, in terms of the compact disc, vinyl in my house always sounds better, or most of the time sounds better. So I'm going to compare it to Chris Bellman's 2017 cut versus the new Rhino Hi-Fi cut by Kevin Gray. Let me talk about this first. This is the Chris Bellman cut. This is over 2 records. There are 14 tracks on this. So in the Chris Bellman cut, the 14 tracks blend over 3 sides. And then I think side 4 has extra tracks, outtakes, alternatives, as I recall. This is definitely a louder cut than the new Rhino High Fidelity, by far. I had to turn my Kevin Gray cut up 3 to 4 notches to equal this. This is a killer version of this. I believe it's all analog too, I think. It's a loud cut. It's almost like if you push the loudness button on your old stereo system, but that doesn't mean there's no dynamics in it. It's an excellent cut. I turned this up, the Kevin Gray cut, to match it, and it sounded excellent. I don't think it loses anything by having 7 tracks per side. That's a lot. I think it's about a 45-minute record. No distortion on the inner tracks, nothing to take away from the dynamics in this record. It's excellent, but you do have to turn it up 3 or 4 steps to match the Chris Bellman thing. Now, I did find, going back and forth on a lot of the tracks, I found I liked the acoustic bass songs slightly better on the Rhino High Fidelity. I think it's smoother, and I don't mean smoother to take away from artist's intent. There's always people think that that's going to soften things. There's no. The highs are there on this, the bass is there on this, the mid-range is there. Nothing is taken away dynamically between the two. It's just, this one just blasts when you don't volume compare and don't volume match it. This one kicks ass, especially on the opening track. But again, the acoustic sounds, the more countrified songs, folk country songs on here, I preferred a little more on the Kevin Gray cut. Some of the rockers initially I liked better on the Chris Bellman cut because they were like intense, in your face. I couldn't believe when I put this on after listening to the Rhino twice that this just exploded in my room. But again, that's because it's louder. Once I pumped up the volume on the hi-fi, it was pretty much equal. Maybe the vocals are a little more out front on the Chris Bellman, but nothing was taken away. I think ultimately, both of these are excellent cuts on this, just very different, or at least different in terms of the volume. Now, I don't know, I didn't experience any real EQ differences between the two. I didn't feel I was lacking on one or the other. I think if you have this version of the record, the Chris Bellman double record, maybe you don't need this one. But I'm feeling that more and more as I get older, that do I need other copies of a record? Unless I have one that is so different and so varied than an earlier pressing, I'm kind of passing. But this is a band I enjoy. I think they're one of the great American bands still standing. Great rock band, but they are a lot more than that, and they've really matured and developed since AM came out in 1995. This is an excellent record, and I think all the people I talked to, I have a handful of friends that are Wilco fans that didn't really take to this initially. They were kind of on the Jay Farrar Sunvolt train after Andaline, Uncle Tupelo album, but have since come back and reevaluated and enjoy this record a lot more. I think it's an excellent choice for Rhino, even though this goes back, but what is this? This is 8 years ago? So they can't do one in 8 years? Vinyl Me Please is a club. It's a record that not everyone can even buy. So I think it's excellent they've done this. Now, I don't know on the resale market what the Vinyl Me Please versions are right now. They're even out of business. So if you have it, maybe that suffices. Is that a Chris Bellman cut? I don't even know the DNA on that one. And I'm sure it sounds excellent. But this is a really wonderful record. I think Rhino Hi-Fi did a great job with it. Again, here are the books. We have the master tapes. Now, this was done 30 inches per second, which is pretty amazing. So there is a lot of dynamics. This is a really well-recorded record. You also have, again, as I said, the essay. No extra pictures on here, except in the gatefold. The Rhino gatefold has these wonderful photographs. It is different than the Chris Bell cut. I do really like Brian Henneman's guitar playing on here. He was sort of a temporary stopgap guitar player from the Bottle Rockets on here, and before Jay Bennett joined the band. Jay Bennett joined the band right after they finished this to go on tour to tour this record. But it's an excellent record. So if anyone tells you otherwise, tell them to stuff it. I recently did a video where I talked about this collaborative record of Tom York, where I streamed it. I thought, But for whatever reason, I bought the vinyl version. I couldn't believe how great and dynamic and wonderful it sounded. So it's great to listen and stream things on your phone or on your laptop. to get an idea musically of what something is. And when you're skipping tracks, I know a lot of people that'll check out 10, 12, 14 tracks on an album and just skip through and play 10 seconds, 20 seconds. You don't get a feeling of it. You don't get the overall hooks, melodies, vocals, guitar riffs, all the other instrumentation that adds to make an album a great record. So I think this is one you have to experience on vinyl. Even though it came out in the height of the CD period, vinyl makes this record better than it ever sounded before. Any of these vinyl versions. I'm sure this is one of those records that you probably can't go wrong with any vinyl version. So if you don't have it, this is probably the excellent place to start. So thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.